You've committed to building a sexy physique and you stop making excuses. You're in the gym, you're taking action, and you're putting in effort. Well done. You're ahead of most, but it's still not enough because you've committed to a very long and challenging path. And unless you know the obstacles that are in front of you, you're going to struggle, man. You're going to reach these obstacles, you're going to bang your head against the wall, and you're going to be so frustrated as to why you're not seeing the progress that you so deserve. So let me save you years of progress by talking about a mistake that I made that you're probably making as well. Otherwise, you might be doomed to spend the rest of eternity with no gains. You don't want that, do you? The biggest obstacle that holds you back from seeing the progress you want is your massive coconut and the thoughts it produces, because it all begins up here. Your physique is an external representation of the way you think and the state of your brain. And so, if you fix this, all of the other obstacles that stand in your way will be overcome so much easier. It starts in your mind because you have a certain thought. Maybe today I'll finally stop being a fat pig and eat some high testosterone food. And so you meal prep, you weigh your food, you log it on MyFitnessPal, and you get a certain outcome. What is that outcome? You get to the end of the day and you feel like a G because you've set yourself a promise and you've kept it, and you actually feel good. You feel clean. You don't have all of this brain fog that is making you retarded. And then based on that outcome, you have a new belief. You think to yourself, eating clean is good. I feel better when I eat clean. And that forms a habit. And that habit makes you think that, tomorrow, maybe I should eat clean as well. Basically, this loop perpetuates until you break it. But it all begins with the thoughts. Because if this is wrong, the rest of this will get messed up and turned into a sack of cottage cheese, just like the physique that you're trying to run away from. So let's bring this process to life and give you several examples of some gym characters and a little bit more about their thought processes to give you an idea of just how important your thoughts can be. This is where you begin as a disgusting slob who hates how he looks, and this is where you want to end up as that gorgeous Chad who gets all the ladies and all the men, depending on your preference. And along the way, there are several levels where once you reach these levels, you have to drastically change up what you do in order to reach the next level. But here's the problem. Very few people get to this level. And so let's talk about the normie, because the normie is the furthest from ever reaching his goals because, yet again, of the way he thinks. So the normie starts off as obviously a disgusting slob who relies on bursts of motivation. You see this little loop here. He sets a New Year's resolution, or he has a wedding or some event that he has to lose as much weight as possible, as quickly as possible. And so he goes all in for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even a month. And then nothing. All of his progress just poof, vanishes into smoke because he decided to go with a very stupid and unsustainable system. So he loops back exactly where he started after barely making any progress. And the problem is, he will probably stay in this cycle forever because he has a gigantic ego. For some reason, he hasn't accepted that he's in this situation because of his thoughts and the choices he's made, and that ultimately everything comes back to his own inputs. And so he always finds a way to blame the world around him for all his shortcomings. And because he has such a gigantic ego, he thinks he knows better. He will never take advice from anyone because in his twisted paradigm, he's, doing the right thing despite the results. And coupled with this gigantic ego, the cherry on the top of this shit sundae is that he thinks extremely short term. He gets so sick of looking in the mirror at this sloppy cottage cheese mess that he wants results yesterday. And so he acts like it. That's why he creates such a ridiculously unsustainable approach that he gives up and he circles back and he stays exactly where he is forever. So let's talk about the next archetype, which is the eternal mid. This is one of the most common characters that you likely see at the gym, which is the guy who's been coming in for years. You've seen him there over and over again, which means he's ticked off step one and he's finally gotten consistent. But he always looks the same. You never ever see him make any progress, even though he's showing up all the time. The problem is, this guy has a very delicate relationship with pain. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like pushing himself because it hurts. He has this mentality where he tries his best, he does what he can, but the problem is he's trying his best based on his perceived level of comfort, which is very high. He wants to stay comfortable. And he thinks that showing up is enough. He's read too many feel-good Instagram posts. He's, he wants to feel better and not be better. Eternal mid has a substantial ego. It's not quite as grotesque as the normie's ego, but it's still there. He still thinks he knows best. He isn't very likely to take advice despite really needing it. He, again, thinks short term. He wants the results now, but he's just not doing what it takes to get them. And as you can see from this beautiful diagram, he makes it to level 1 and he stays there. He never breaks through these next plateaus to reach the physique of his dreams. Maybe it's for a reason. This next archetype is something that holds very dear to me because it's what's held me back the most. And you watching this video, you are probably an ADHD overthinker. Listen, man, I get it. You have a big bulbous brain, you're intelligent, but that can be a double-edged sword. And you very likely will end up reaching that sexy physique because you care enough about it and you're willing to put in the effort. But your journey will look something like this, where you're all over the place, you're scattered, you're chaotic, you're completely a mess. But luckily, you're a consistent mess. You're inconsistently consistent. You show up, you're okay with pain, you train hard, you know how to push yourself, but here's the problem. Here's what's keeping you in this chaotic loop of destruction. And it's probably really frustrating you, and you want to see better results, but that's the problem. You're always looking for that new secret sauce, that special new tip, trick or tactic that will make all the difference. And that's why you're always scattering all over the place. You think you have an information problem. You think, I just don't know enough. I haven't watched enough science lifting videos. I haven't maybe read enough studies, God forbid. You are essentially a paralyzed analyst. You sit there, you think way too much, but you don't actually do enough based on those thoughts. You still put in way more effort and take way more action than the normie and the eternal mid, but you think way more than you do, and that's a massive problem because you are wearing the white coat in your little lab. You're this scientist who's always experimenting, but you're experimenting like a retard. Let's be very honest here. Experiments have a hypothesis and then the experimentational process and then the conclusion. But the experimentation process actually has to get completed to reach the conclusion. But you, just like me, you have a tendency to just flip the experiment over halfway through and then go run another experiment without even gathering the data first. So stop it, bro. Just take a deep breath and relax. And because he's not a normie or an eternal mid, he has a schizophrenic ego that feeds into this chaotic mess. And what do I mean by schizophrenic ego? Well, some days he looks in the mirror, he has a sexy pump, he's in the right lighting, and he thinks, yeah, I'm the man, I know it all. But then other days he wakes up and he's just binged on junk food. He looks in the mirror, he's just a little bit bloated, but because he broke a promise to himself, his perception is messed up. And now he doesn't trust himself anymore. He has way too little of an ego. He doesn't think he knows anything. He thinks, what have I been doing? I've wasted all these years and I still look like garbage. He's all over the place. He's flip-flopping around about whether or not he believes himself or he knows anything. And that is feeding the analysis paralysis, and the shiny object syndrome, and all of this nightmare of lunacy. And he doesn't think extremely short term, but he wants results fast. And that's why he's always trying these new methods, because he thinks he can speed up the process somehow. Spoiler alert, you can speed up the process, but it doesn't come from this schizophrenic, freaking frantic trying of new things. Now, how do you speed up the process? You become the ruthless executor. These are the guys you see, they that you don't believe are natty. They have been training maybe as long as you, maybe even less, but somehow their results are far superior. They make staggering progress that you don't even believe. Let me be the bearer of bad news and tell you that they're probably natural. To them, consistency is like breathing. They're not just consistent in what they do at the gym and how often they show up. They're consistent with everything, man. You can't beat these guys. Every single second of their day is planned, and they don't waver from the plan. They carry out the process no matter how they feel. Their emotions aren't even a part of the equation. They have a relationship with pain that is pretty tapped in their head, but you can't freaking fault the results. They are always seeking more pain because they know that that is the fastest way to become a master of oneself. This guy has absolutely zero ego. He doesn't think he knows any more than he does. He knows exactly where he currently stands, what level he's at, and he accepts that he knows absolutely nothing. And so he listens to those above him. He follows what they tell him to do without hesitation, without questioning, without critical thinking, because he just follows a proven system at whatever stage he's at, and it doesn't waver from the plan. He doesn't start creating these frantic, shiny object experiments. No, he just sticks with the process that he's given at what stage he's given it. He doesn't get distracted from his path. He doesn't let any contradictory information confuse him, because he only seeks information when he needs to reach the next level, or when he's stopped making progress at his current level. He experiments effectively. He, gets a variable, only one variable at a time, and sees how it changes when he implements it. And he lets the experiment run its course. When he looks at those who are doing better than him, he doesn't get caught in this cycle of self-hatred and comparison and thinking, oh, why can't I look like that? No, he gets inspired. He's like, yeah, if they can do it, why can't I? Provided they're natural, obviously, doesn't really have to be said, but hey, that's not the point here. The ruthless executor has extremely long-term thinking. He knows that his dream physique is already a reality, and it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there, he will get there, because he's completely fallen in love with the process. He doesn't even really care about the results anymore, because he knows that he's already got them. Now, let me make a disclaimer, because very, very few will ever attain the status of a ruthless executor. And certainly nobody ever starts as a ruthless executor. This is like a perfect ideal, because nobody ever goes from a complete noob, just adopts this mindset where he makes clear linear progress all the way up until his dream physique. But at any stage of your journey, you can adopt the mentality of a ruthless executor, and you can chisel away at becoming that guy for your entire life, because there's always another level to this. And honestly, I'm working towards it. And as I work towards it, I'm going to document every single part of the journey. And I want to do it a lot more honestly than I've ever done before. Not just try to come on here and present myself as the golden standard, because I'm not the ruthless executor yet. But as I get there, I hope to inspire you to be the same. Because truly, there is no better way to live than knowing your goal and getting there with ultimate efficiency.